live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things that are important to the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evenings, a live fire fun and frivolity show. If you would like to get in contact with the show this evening, or you would like to follow the show during off-show hours, here's how you do all that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at BBQCentralShow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening this evening. Coming up in about 12 minutes from now, the first quarterly visit from the Barbecue Central Show's official cigar expert, Mr. J from the Cigar Authority, will join us. Also, you can purchase cigars at the numeral 2guyscigars.com, and I can say that, although they can't on their show for some reason, but I've long since hated YouTube, perhaps more than most folks. So I don't really give a fuck if they ban me or don't ban me, because I make $0 and 0 cents from them after tax. And again, if you're a fan of the show, you know the long, sordid hatred that I have for YouTube. Thusly, YouTube has for me. Nevertheless, if you want to buy some premium cigars, the elite retailer in the country, and dare I say the world, Two Guys Cigars, or you can just subscribe to the podcast that they do every week, or live show, just like this show. It's live, but it's also a podcast called The Cigar Authority. So Mr. J coming up here shortly. And then after Mr. J, we will go to our barbecue expert and an author and a monthly guest here on this show. It is Robert Moss, Barbecue Central Show's guest Hall of Famer. So we have a number of topics to chat about as Robert joins us, not the least of which is the spelling of the word barbecue. I have thoughts on that. He does too. We will be talking about if beef prices will be finding any kind of lowering in the near future, and I think the news is bad on that. We will also talk about something that he's done a few times in the past that I found incredibly interesting, called the Hamburger Index, and some other things as well. So that'll bring a close to the first hour. Then we move to the second hour, and it's been about 4 years since the last time he was on, but through a lot of ghost communication, and by ghost I mean none at all. But here he is anyway. Mark Anderson from the Grill Dads is joining us in the second hour. And while we had some really great communication up front 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, you know I am all about the rib roast method that him and Faye decided to unveil to the social medias. I fell deeply, madly, and quickly in love with it, asking everybody about it and their thoughts on it. And why not actually talk to 50% of the genius that decided to bring this method to our attention. And congratulations to them for doing it. And then I'm to find out that they're in the midst of doing something brand new, and that's why he kind of fell off communication over this past weekend. Not until today. I sent him an email earlier this morning. He said, Mark, haven't heard from you since Friday when I reached out. No sound checks. If I don't hear from you by X time, I'm moving on. In fact, I'm planning on you just not showing up. I have some things I need to talk about, so I'm not even planning on you. But if I don't hear back from you by X time, I'm definitely not planning on you. Then he reached out. I said, maybe we should just reschedule. No, I have gear. I have the testicular fortitude to want to still do the segment. So, okay, we did a quick sound check. Of course, he is a professional and everything sounded great. That means nothing. Everything could sound like crap here in an hour and change. But we gave it our best college try, and we'll see what's happening here. And plenty to talk about when it comes to Mark Anderson. Again, off 4 years, 5 years. Last time Mark was on, believe it or not, we were unveiling their brand new Grill Dads podcast. How did that work out? Not very well. Like most podcasts. I know, 2 weeks in a row where I'm going to summarily shit on everybody that's ever had a podcast. But look, in this my space, the live fire industry, I mean, no one's even coming close to me, and it's not even, second isn't even close. I think I'm second, too, with the best moments of the Barbecue Central show. Now getting ready to jump to 420 episodes all by itself, let alone the near 2,000 episodes I have of this show. And by the way, if I might, February 7th, 2008, the Barbecue Central show went live for the very first time. That means we celebrated an anniversary on Saturday, I think was the 7th. I believe I'm right. Whatever 3 days less than today was. We celebrate 18 years of doing it live. Live. A feat unto itself. I don't know how many live shows on the internet and or otherwise that are still out there, but still also doing it in podcast form. But remember, folks, even 2 years before 2008, so quickly do the math, 2006, the original, what was then called the Barbecue for You show, before I was threatened with a lawsuit to change that name because somebody else had it. BBQ, the number 4, the letter U, and they were suing people over that. I mean, can you believe it? Nevertheless, originally a podcast called Barbecue for You that eventually got named a podcast called Barbecue Central that eventually in 2008 hit the live airwaves courtesy of a partnership with LA Talk Radio, or a now LA Talk Radio, a then BBS Talk Radio. And how do you find anybody back then? Craigslist. Guy was looking for talent to take up some space, and in exchange for content, he was giving free air shifts. And I said, hey, man, I would love to be a part of this. I have good news and bad news. What's the good news? Well, it's kind of a tested platform, my show. I've been doing the podcast for 2 years. The bad news is I'm in Cleveland. I'm not in L.A. A lot of bad things there. But because we were at the bleeding edge of technology, we figured out a way for me to get an audio stream out into the internet. And then I shared that to him, and then he took that audio stream and then repurposed it on his audio servers and pumped it out through a then BBS Talk Radio, a now LA Talk Radio. And that's where the show lived for many, many years, 55 minutes in length. Eventually, BBS or LA Talk Radio and I say part ways, but I just grew to the point where I needed 2 hours. He did not have the reciprocating second hour following my first hour. That was with a completely different show that was doing very well at the time. And I said, hey, you're welcome to continue to syndicate the first hour, but I'm going to open up my own. Streaming became much more popular by then. And I said, I'm just going to do it on my own. But if you want to syndicate that first hour through LA Talk Radio, fine, go ahead, have at it. So I would say as of February 7th, 2007, and I don't recall the exact date of when we put out that first horrible podcast, but let's say I'm 20 years in the biz, Polly. 20 years in the biz. So few podcasts have ever made it as long as mine, regardless of content coverage. Few do it as routinely as I do. And to answer Diane Me, is LA Talk Radio around? Yes, latalkradio.com can also be listened to on an app in your app store, LA Talk Radio. And Jason Pettis, 4691, asking, does the forum still exist? Jason, just when I thought you were a super fan, I sold it years ago. I made a lot of money on that back in the day. $75,000. Yeah, baby. Retired for about a week and then got right back on the horse because I live expensively. I saw, the future wasn't message forums. The future was podcasting, and really just starting to gain momentum is this podcast. Mr. J is in the green room smoking some kind of a delicious cigar that we'll learn all about here in just a moment. Before we learn about that, we'll talk to you about Primo Grills, because what do we love about ceramic cookers? We love that they're fuel efficient. We love that you can achieve low and slow temperatures for traditional barbecue meats. We love that you can get rip-roaring hot for high-temperature grilling of steak and other thin cuts. But what's missing in the everyday lineup of ceramic cookers? The real ability to do that true two-zone cooking. Two-zone cooking is very important to both professional and backyard cooks alike. It's the best way to manage a fire and cook with confidence. However, getting a two-zone fire in a round ceramic cooker isn't very realistic. Why? Because it's round. Enter Primo Grill and the game-changing oval design. The shape gives you the ability to execute that two-zone setup that you desire. It also gives you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. And when you break it down, there's more than 60 different ways to cook on this beast, so you're only limited by your culinary imagination. Sold through dealers only. Go to primogrill.com, find the dealer near you, visit in person, touch and feel all the ovals, and then buy one. And by the way, this past weekend, we were celebrating Detective Corey's birthday, big steak cook. I say shout out to Mr. Brisket for the beef, but I had to pay for that beef. All right. I'll pay. What did I come to find out quickly? I should have used the Primo, because the gas grill was not very keen on firing up. It was cold. And all I really needed to do was drop some lit charcoal over some unlit charcoal, let it come to temperature, let the ceramic get warm. So it had a much better grilling experience, and shame on me. Lesson learned. Don't fall victim the same way I did. Primogrill.com. Follow him on Facebook and Instagram. We're back with Mr. J right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Fireboard, makers of Fireboard 2, Fireboard Pro, Fireboard Spark, Fireboard Beacon, and the wireless Fireboard Pulse. When you use the Fireboard app, you have total access to all devices anywhere in the world. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. Jason Pettis, 4691, weighing in. I knew you sold it, just didn't know if it still existed. Good question, Jason. I would search on the internet www.bbq- the numeral 4- theletteru.com, and then see what comes up. Report back, please, because I know you'll do it post-haste. Hey, my first guest tonight, a well-known figure in the cigar community, one of the co-hosts of the very popular Cigar Authority podcast, and making his first quarterly appearance of 2026 to talk about the latest news and trends in the cigar industry, the Barbecue Central's very own cigar expert, Mr. Jonathan. There he is, Mr. J. We appreciate you coming in here for yet another year, getting ready to launch 2026 in the most epic fashions ever. But before we do that, we have a Would You Rather YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody. Would you rather get a foot massage or would you rather get a shoulder massage?
I think I'd go foot.
Foot. All right. 18% of the YouTube voting public is opting for foot massage. I think foot massage shows y'all might be a little bit of a freak if you're asking me, but I think what we've come to know and love about a Mr. J on the Cigar Authorities podcast is y'all might be kind of a little bit of a freak.
Nothing little about it.
That's right.
All freak.
Let that freak
Hey,
flag.
congratulations on 20 years, by the way.
That's pretty impressive, right?
Soliloquy you had going on there.
Right. Right off the top of my head. My professionalism knows no bounds. All right, Mr. J, what is smoking well in the Two Guys Smoke Shop these days?
Right now, I am smoking almost every day the HVC edition Especial 2015. Garofalo Maduro, which I know I talk about that one all the time. It's made by Perdomo. I love it. Gold Star, I added to my rotation this week, and I'm glad I did. And we had a new cigar. The guy that created the blends for Media Tierra for the gentleman Nick out in Pennsylvania, he has a brand, it's brand new, called Didier. Expensive. They're $25 to $30. Man, are they good, though. Very good. And I know you're going to ask me about it. I got to say it. Perdomo Legacy, not only is it killing it sales-wise, but damn it, they're great.
So that's a great dovetail into the next question or next topic, which is Perdomo Legacy winning the 2025 Cigar Authorities podcast Cigar of the Year. Cigar of the Year, not yeared, but Cigar of the Year. I don't know if I can properly bring across what this award actually means. So, for instance, if my show was seen as the Cigar Authority is seen within the industry, then if I had, I don't know, barbecue sauce of the year or new barbecue rub of the year, and we had the whole setup like you guys do with the cigars, and then we crowned, Blues Hog was barbecue sauce of the year this year, maybe that would almost bring in at least a monicum of idea of how the Cigar Authority Cigar of the Year is actually viewed in the industry. But as somebody who's in the industry, if you're making cigars, you want to be the winner of this, no doubt.
For sure. It all boils down to sales. The reason we came out with Cigar of the Year in 92, which predates me at the company, is to generate interest in the new cigar brand. So they have to come out after October 1st of the year prior. And then you look at the first month, say, of sales. And in the case of the Perdomo Legacy, it boiled down to the biggest single launch in company history on the heels of the other biggest launch in company history, which was the Perdomo 30th. So sales-wise, nothing came close as far as that launch was concerned. If you look back at the Perdomo history, their first year in business, they did 10,000 cigars, which is about 500 boxes, 20-count boxes. And we did that in a weekend with the launch as a company. It was just massive. So you boil down also votes where nothing came in close. If someone bought a contenders pack, they got a chance to vote with a special email address in the back. And the votes came in overwhelmingly for Perdomo. And staff picks, the only thing that came even on the radar was that HVC I mentioned earlier. It came closer, but overall, it was a slam dunk in favor of Perdomo Legacy, Gran Bellicoso, shade grown.
Do you think that when Perdomo is putting this together, they're thinking we want to release this so it can be at least in play in the Cigar of the Year contendership? And if so, are they also making sure? So there's a lot of metrics. Maybe if you want to just break it down very quickly, the metrics of what it takes to be Cigar of the Year, or what you have to hit in order to be considered a contender.
To be a contender, you have to be readily available. You have to be having launched in that calendar year. And we say the calendar year is from October all the way until the end of September. That's our calendar year, so that we have time to sell it and see what that first month will do. After you equate all the sales, all of our staff gets a vote. The panel on Cigar Authority gets a vote, and no, I don't get to vote twice. My one vote counts. And we also poll the audience of the people that bought I think it was I think it was 700 contenders packs this year.
Wow.
So 700 people voted in addition to that after smoking all the cigars in the pack. Do I think that Perdomo was thinking about that when they launched it? No, I think that as a company, they're super authentic to their brand. And this was a passion project for Nick Trey, third generation, fourth in the cigar industry, but the third of the Nick Perdomos. And he wanted to make this cigar using a special tobacco that his dad had formulated 12 or 13 years ago, this Nicaraguan shade grown. They tried to grow shade tobacco under cheesecloth in Esteli, Nicaragua. And even with reducing the power of the sun by 40%, growing it under cheesecloth, the soil is so nutrient dense and the sun is so powerful there that when they fermented it, it fermented like a sun-grown tobacco. And Nick, not senior, Nick the second, we call him Nick Perdomo, didn't know what to do with it. So he put it on ice in bales, and Nicholas has reign over all the tobacco. His dad's the owner of the company, and he's a higher up himself. And so he starts working on this blend secretly and taps in Arthur Kemper, the president of the company. And one thing leads to another. They come up with the artwork. They come up with the whole concept, and they presented it to him at a trade show and said, this is what we want to do. And of course, it gets Nick's blessing, and it launches, and it's absolutely huge. It's a monster.
Biggest launch ever for them?
Biggest launch ever for them, but
yeah.
More importantly, because I work for Two Guys Smoke Shop, it's the biggest launch for us, and honored that they gave us a 3-week head start over the rest of the world. We sold a metric shit ton of Perdomo Legacy.
Do you expect something big from them this year?
There is something in the pipeline that's top secret. There'll be episodes on that coming out in the not too distant future, but I think they're going to take a year off from releasing anything too massive, and I expect to see something in 2027 from them, which will be pretty breathtaking.
Shockingly, the New England Cigar Expo is happening again in 2026. I was a bit shocked, but Dave seems like maybe a bit of a closet sadist. When is it, and where can I get tickets?
The New England Cigar Expo is September 25th and 26th of this year. And the tickets go on sale the first Saturday in May, which is May 2nd. And honestly, I knew during the Cigar Expo last year, even though Dave was saying it was his last, I saw him get this idea for this booth set up because we ran out of seats. Somebody invited someone, it might have been Christian Aroa. I think he brought his wife in. Someone else surprised him. Nelson Alfonso wasn't supposed to be at the event. He showed up with his 2 sons. So we're out 4 seats, and it's sold out. So he moved his mother, his wife, and his daughter into this side booth, and they were raving about the seats that they had. And they said that this is where they want to sit every time. And I saw that little acorn start to grow into an oak tree. And now this year we're launching this 4-seat VIP section where 4 people or 1 person could buy it for the 2,500, but you get VIP access and you get your own little booth for the show on night 1.
Worth the money?
Oh, it's going to sell out in hours, not
Yep.
days.
Yep.
And I had to field an email this week, and the guy was bitching and moaning about the VIPs not worth it. You get the same number of cigars and all this. If it isn't worth it, why do I see the same names on the VIP list every year? And each year we've increased the VIP list by a little bit because we had to. And each year it sells out the fastest. The people that are buying those tickets, they see the value, and forget about I'm a huge Perdomo fan. So if I were a consumer, I would buy the VIP ticket so I could sit at Perdomo's table. That to me is worth it because you can choose your seat with VIP access. That's worth it.
This is going to sell out. So if you're interested, September 25th, September 26th are the dates that is actually happening, but tickets go on sale. You said that first weekend in May, which is May 2nd?
May 2nd, yep.
Yeah. All right. So if you're interested, keep an eye out and get your tickets early and often. I wanted to, if you're open to this, maybe start going through some of the more well-known brands, and then as time wears on this year, start bringing up some of the mid-range, some of the new entries, or I don't want to say lower level because that sounds like we're talking about quality, but smaller, I guess we should say, cigar brands, companies. And I know brands and company or brands and manufacturer aren't necessarily the same thing, although some are vertically integrated. I wanted to start with the brand that we've been talking a little bit about here this evening, which is Perdomo. So if you don't mind taking us to brand or company school here, what can you tell us about Perdomo for the folks that don't know?
So Perdomo traces its history back to Cuba, where Silvio Perdomo was raised near Havana. He entered the cigar industry as a young man in the early 30s. He apprenticed at some of the more prestigious factories. It later ends up working at H. Upmann before becoming a manager at Partagas until about 1959. His son, Nicholas Perdomo Sr., not Nick Perdomo that we know now, this is Sr., followed suit and started his apprenticeship in 1948. And he eventually started rising into sort of more executive roles at some of the major Cuban facilities like H. Upmann. And the Cuban Revolution kind of threw a monkey wrench into everything, and it forced the family into exile. Nick Sr. resettles into the United States near Washington, D.C., and the next generation ends up being Nick Perdomo Jr., the man we know now as Nick Perdomo. In 1992, he leaves his career as an air traffic controller at the Miami International Airport, and he pursues his passion for cigars, starting modestly as Nick's Cigar Company in his garage in Hialeah, Florida. He begins rolling in small batches and sold about, like I said before, 10,000 cigars, about 500 boxes. To put that into perspective, my house brand Dos Hombre sells 500,000 cigars a year.
Wow.
He started off at 10,000 the first year. He hits the mid-90s with the cigar boom, and he ends up partnering with his dad and expands rapidly, moving production to Nicaragua in 1995 with a small factory in Esteli. By 99, he builds a larger factory and changes the name to Tabacalera Perdomo and grows into a vertically integrated powerhouse, which all happened out of necessity. If you ever hear Nick talk about his history, he would look to the box factory and say, hey, that this is the holdup. And when they're just give him the runaround, he starts his own box factory. And when there was a problem with how the paint was sticking to the boxes, he creates a nozzle that Husky ended up buying the rights from him. They bought it. They gave him 3 nozzles, and this allows him to save paint as he's spraying the boxes and stain. Cellophane. He makes his own cellophane. The only thing he doesn't do is print his own bands. He has 2 safes in his facility. One safe holds his paper products, and the other safe holds his proprietary seeds. When I tell you he's vertically integrated, he stamps his own hinges for the box. Every single thing that you can imagine that could be done, except printing the bands, he does it. So that's why he's the animal that he is today. That's why you look at a Perdomo cigar and it smokes. The Legacy smokes like a $30 cigar. It's $15.
Hmm.
It's an unbelievable value across his entire portfolio.
I appreciate the look into Perdomo. We're running a little short of time here, and of course, the show is about me, and I got to ask my question. So we'll get to Padron next quarter and perhaps another company or two. So I have a humidor sitting just to the left of me. It's supposed to keep temperature. It appears that the heater portion of the thing that's supposed to keep temperature is no longer working. So I've unplugged the unit completely. I have bought a supplemental cigar oasis in order to keep humidity into it, because the thing did also have its own humidifying drawer, but without any power, it's not doing anything, and it only seems like the heater will run for 20 seconds, and then the air conditioning portion kicks on, and it was a losing battle all the way around. So unplugged it, got Cigar Oasis, and so it's the ambient temperature of the humidor right now where I'm sitting at in Cleveland, Ohio, 61 degrees here in the basement. Humidity, 65%, thanks to the aforementioned Cigar Oasis. So I'm not overly concerned with the humidity, but do I need to be, or perhaps when do I need to be concerned with the temperature, if at all?
If you're in the basement, most likely your temperature is not going to fluctuate all that much. In the heat of the summer, maybe you hit 70 down there. If you're comfortable, the cigars are comfortable. So if you walk in that basement and it feels cooler than the rest of the world, you're okay. So really you want to think in terms of how comfortable are you temperature-wise, and if you're comfortable in a T-shirt, shorts, cigars are comfortable. A little cool is not a problem. You just want to keep in mind that temperature and humidity are relative to each other. So as temperature goes down, humidity goes up. So I would take that Cigar Oasis and drop it down 5 ticks down to 60. So what that's going to do is in the spring and the fall, as we're resistant to put on the heat in the fall and the temperature drops a little bit, the humidity is going to climb. So you want that headroom from 60 to 65. And then the inverse is going to happen in the springtime when you're resistant to putting on the AC and the temperature climbs a bit, the humidity is going to fall, and you still have another 5 points. So anywhere between 55 and 65 is the sweet spot for humidity, keeping in mind that temperature is going to be what really dictates the ultimate reading. So again, be comfortable. Your cigars are comfortable. And then the rest of it, I know what you smoke. Your stuff is going to smoke better on the drier side.
Is this pretty standard operation for a lot of these? I don't know. I mean, if let's say it was a $600 or $700 retail, holds 400 to 500 cigars. It does heat. It does air conditioning. It's got the humidity drawer. I mean, do they crap out after a couple of years? Is this kind of run of the mill?
It's not that it's run of the mill. It really depends on the climate and how often it has to cycle back and forth. And most of those parts you can source on eBay or Amazon, and they are fairly plug and play, where it's a 2-prong wire clip or a couple of screws. If it's more than that, you just have to know how to tin a soldering iron and you're all set.
Yes. Well, guess what? I certainly have no idea how to do that. So leaving it unplugged is the easiest thing for me to do, and I can probably figure out how to lessen the humidity on my Cigar Oasis.
And Cigar Oasis they're top notch. That's what I use in my singles humidor. I have a slightly bigger unit for my stand-up case, but I've used Cigar Oasis for years, and the original one that I bought over 12 years ago is still functioning in my brother's humidor at his house.
All right. Well, if you are interested in more cigar content, of course, listen here every quarter where you can hear Mr. Jonathan. But in the meantime, you can catch him every week over on the cigarauthority.com. You can subscribe to the podcast. And if you are into buying cigars, which I certainly am, they are my vendor of choice. So the number 2 guys, cigars. barbecue.com is the place to go. Mr. J, always appreciate the time, and we'll see you in 3 months.
All right. Thank you.
You got it. A pro's pro and an expert when it comes to the cigar talk, and that's why we have him on. And, like, here's how I know I am no man. At the end, I don't know if you caught it, he said, if you know how to tin a soldering iron. I didn't even know that was a thing to say. Tin a soldering iron. Yeah, look, I'm no man. My handyman skills, we pay people for that. That's what I say. Right, Mr. Robert Moss is in the green room, and before we get to him, we will talk to you about Big Papa Smokers. Competition season's heating up, gang, and now's the time to stock up with Big Papa Smokers, your source for championship barbecue flavor. Load up on the award-winning Sweet Money, the proven competition brisket and steak rub. Do all of this before the pits fire up and the smoke rolls in. Whether you're chasing trophies or perfecting your backyard game, Big Papa's got the flavor that wins. Shop now at bigpapasmokers.com. That's bigpapasmokers.com. And use code REMPE26, all one word together, REMPE, and the numerals 26 at checkout for free shipping. Exclusions apply. Big Papa Smokers, real barbecue, real results. And we'll be back with Barbecue Central Show's guest Hall of Famer Robert Moss right after this. Stick around.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
And we thank Mr. Jonathan for joining us last segment. This portion of the show being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet, available in 3 sizes, many accessories. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a professional, it's a cooker you want to add to the arsenal. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. Jason Pettis on fire writing in, you should look up what became of Daryl Mast, who had the Barbecue Superstars podcast back in the day. Crazy story. Please share. I remember Daryl. I remember Daryl as being, I don't remember him necessarily having a podcast per se, although I do believe he had one. But I remember Daryl as being more of a guy who was really on that bleeding edge of streaming live video at events he was going to. And he was traversing the country, going to all kinds of different competitions and cooking schools and interviewing people. That part, very impressive. See, the problem with doing all of that stuff back in the day was the lack of a solidified and, dare I say, quality Wi-Fi internet connection, which was nothing, which is why I never wanted to go anywhere. Inevitably, it was going to be me at crunch time, getting ready to announce a winner somewhere, and we're live, and then the Wi-Fi signal dumps, and I look like a fool, and all anybody's going to remember isn't the 15 hours of great live broadcasting that happened. It's the last 48 seconds of when the Wi-Fi dumped and nobody found out who the winner of that competition was. But nevertheless, my next guest is the contributing barbecue editor for Southern Living Magazine, a 2023 Barbecue Central Show's guest Hall of Famer, and all of our pals, Robert Moss. All right, Robert, we have a YouTube poll question of the week, a would you rather, by the way. Would you rather get a foot massage or a shoulder massage?
Shoulder massage, 100%.
Shoulder massage, right.
Yeah. My feet are very ticklish, so that never.
7% of the YouTube voting public is also saying that they would care for the foot massage. I'm sorry, for the shoulder massage over the foot massage, and I certainly agree with that as well. All right, so we have a couple different topics here, and look at here. I don't want to
A barbecue
say that I'm
Central
just reading
Show
this.
exclusive news update.
Greg Rempe reporting from the Breakings News Desk here in Cleveland, Ohio, the city that breaks the most live fire breaking news across the country. Nay, the globe. And reporting direct from his office in South Carolina is Robert Moss. Robert?
Yeah, so I think we had talked about, we were going to, talk if we had time about the BBQ World Cup, which I wrote about in the my newsletter yesterday, actually, the one that just came out. But I had some breaking news on that front and wanted to update it because I have more information than I had in the newsletter, where I had sort of laid out a lot of the unanswered questions. Still a lot of unanswered questions, but there's a lot more to it. So it's just like an hour ago or so. I won't say who it is because they didn't say I could say his name, but somebody who's had read the Q sheet and is in the competition world, well known, sent me a link to a podcast, which is Luke Darnell's podcast, Old Virginia Smoke. I think it's called Pitmaster with Old Virginia Smoke. So he's one of the, he's a competition guy, well known competition champion, and he's one of the 13, I think, pitmaster on the pitmaster committee. So he had Scott Erdman and Shannon Pruitt from BBQ World Cup on his podcast, which just dropped today. And so I hadn't heard it until like an hour ago. So I raced through it and listened to it right before the show. You heard a lot of stuff I already knew. You got a lot of their background and things like that, which I'd written about. But I do have a few pieces of news, which they've talked about a little bit about the money. Which is, I think, the thing that everybody is, is interested in. What I thought was curious is they're building this community, the BBQ World Cup community, and it's apparently a membership community. You can go sign up for it, give me an email today, but there's no way to pay online or anything. But apparently, that's going to cost $50 to join the membership community, which will get you access to all kinds of discounts and online stuff and things like that. But to actually participate, if you I think they've named 23 regional competitions now that are the feeder or the qualifying competitions through the big BBQ World Cup event in Las Vegas. They did say that it's going to be spring of 2027. So we started to zero in on a date, either the beginning of April, first or second week of April. They're still working on locking in where it's going to be. So that isn't the actual property, but they're shooting for April 2027, which is I hadn't seen a date announced other than 2027, so that's new. And if you are a member of this World Cup community and you qualify, the entry fee is $500 for your team.
Wow.
If you're not a member of that community and you qualify, it's $1,250 or $1,250 to enter. Wow. So there are some entry fees. So we've gotten that. Apparently the question they're getting from everybody is, where does the money come from? And they did say on the podcast simply that they have investors, or so not revealing where it's coming from or et cetera. So that's a little more clarity that I got just a little while ago on the details. But we can talk more about other things they said. It was almost an hour-long podcast. But I got a lot of insight I did not have yesterday when I was publishing the Q sheet.
Time zones aside, I may or may not have a interview set up with at least Scott and potentially a Shannon Pruitt, Scott Erdman, the last Tuesday of this month in the first hour. So it'll be first hour BBQ World Cup potentially, and then second hour the embedded correspondence segment, which would be great to talk about that, and then go right into the brain trust of the embedded correspondents to get their take on everything. From an investor's standpoint, my first question is, if you're going to be ponying up this kind of money, what kind of return do you need to see to have there be a BBQ World Cup second edition?
Yeah, and I have no idea. And I think one thing that came through in the interview I heard was that the founders are new to this, and they will admit that they really don't know much about barbecue competitions. I think you'll probably get more from Scott when he's on the show. I think he was somehow involved at an event at AT&T Stadium, I think, which I would assume is the Lone Star Smokeout, which the Windy City Smokeout folks put on I think last year was the first year. I think he was involved in that, and that was sort of his first introduction to it. I think Shannon Pruitt admits she does, until just this year didn't really know much about barbecue. So they're sort of coming to it from the sports world, and they're new to it and are learning on it. I don't know that they have a business model fully baked out, or really. It sounds like they're still learning and figuring out a lot of things out. Is the biggest thing that came through to me in the interview.
Did they mention how many total qualifiers they might have before the main event happens in 27?
They did not say how many. I think there's 23 that have been announced so far. I didn't hear a total number. I did see somewhere on the site, because for the Q sheet I was, I think something along the lines of 100 comes to mind. Wow. But I got the sense that they have been focused first and foremost on getting all these qualifier competitions signed up, which is really just getting, they aren't running those competitions. They're just getting them signed up to sort of, be part of the network or whatever. And are literally figuring out as it goes. Now, I would agree with the comment you just flashed across there. It does sound like they are building that plane as they are flying it. And I'm not even sure they know where they're flying it to exactly right now.
The only question that I have, and maybe they didn't cover it, is it a $1 million prize purse, which means cash and prizes totaling $1 million, and then is the winner also getting an additional $1 million? Because I've heard it a couple different ways. I've heard it there's a $1 million prize purse, but I've also heard that the winner is also getting a separate large amount of cash prizes or cash.
Yeah, and that's one thing that did not come out on the podcast. It's something I raised in my Q sheet articles, because I've seen both things stated. I've seen it literally stated on their Instagram feed, a winner take all for $1 million. And then also on the website, it says a $1 million purse. I guess it could be a purse that only gets taken one way, but usually when you say a $1 million, pool or $1 million purse, it implies this will get split up. I think that piece is still TBD. We just know it's, the $1 million.
All right, so that's the latest in the BBQ World Cup saga, and as I said, give it a couple weeks here, and we may just land a Scott Erdman and or a Shannon Pruitt here on the show, and I'm going to be asking all the right questions. If there's only one true way to spell barbecue, how come there are so many other ways? And by the way, I would just like to point out, as a surprise to no one, I'm your biggest offender / hypocrite, because I truly believe, as you do, barbecue, or as you have researched, barbecue should be spelled BARBECUE. But my show, of course, is called the BBQ Central Show. So I believe the correct. However, I exhibit the complete opposite. This is why I'm a terrible parent.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say that barbecue, fully spelled out with a C, BARBECUE, is the only right way to spell it. Because, even the dictionaries will accept some alternate spellings. It is what I would say my preferred spelling. Is how I like to do it. I've had a whole Q sheet article about it. I think 2 newsletters ago, where I sort of delved into the history of the abbreviation BBQ and BBQ and how that all came around. But no, I do think that I prefer to spell it all out, spell barbecue. I tend to do that. That's sort of like a house style thing for when I'm doing my own writing. What's funny is that there is no consistency and agreement, especially the further back you go in history. And having done a lot of history research of barbecue, you learn pretty quickly you've got to be searching for every single spelling under the sun, not just BARBEQUE, but like barbecue with an I, and there's all these just bizarre spellings that you get back especially in the 18th century. But back in the 18th century, spelling hadn't normalized for any word, so people just sort of spelled it however they wanted to. It wasn't until dictionaries really came along and you started standardizing that. But no, I definitely prefer barbecue with a C. Others are adamant in their methods. I did do a poll, and I think the vast majority of my readers, probably 60+% of the readers, said that they prefer it the way I do, which is the full spelled out barbecue. I do always laugh. I found like Fresh Air Barbecue down in Jackson, Georgia. You can find, like, just with a single picture of their building, 4 different spellings of barbecue on their signs anywhere else. So even single restaurants aren't consistent on how they spell it. And I think part of it may have to do with how much space they have on the sign.
If you see the words BBQ in your head, do you say the words BBQ, or in your head do you say barbecue?
Probably depends on the context, but I think I say barbecue. I look at it as just sort of shorthand for barbecue. I don't think the BBQ Central show when I see your logo twirling around up the corner there. I think the Barbecue Central show.
Interesting, because you were on the Baseball and Barbecue podcast, and I believe the two hosts, well, I mean, it's technically Doug Scheiding's show, and he allows Len and Jeff to host the show in his absence. But even Len and Jeff seem to have differing ways of saying their own show. I believe Jeff does go to the Baseball and BBQ podcast.
You're right, he does. I don't think I really noticed that when I was on, but you're right.
And when he references barbecue, he says BBQ. Do you BBQ this way? Do you BBQ that way? Where Leonard is, I guess, more formal or more of our way of thinking, where at least he's enunciating barbecue and not BBQ. So when I'm talking to them, I'm always saying, hey, you listen to the Baseball and BBQ or barbecue podcast, depending on, whatever. It's a little fun game that we play. But I'm just wondering, and asking you to speak for all of the people, if you see letters that say BBQ, like, how are you reading that? I'm glad to see that you're at least not associating that with my show.
And now that you call it out, it is unusual, I think, for people to say BBQ frequently. Like if they're just like, let's come BBQ something in the backyard. I don't hear that very much at all.
Interestingly enough, do you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is?
I do.
Ever heard of that name? Yeah.
Gary V.
100 years ago, before Gary V blew up into the sensation that he is now, he was doing wine library television on YouTube. And I was really into wine at the time, and I had somehow gotten a relationship with his cameraman. And Gary has been on the show 2 or 3 different times before he really got big. And he cut an intro for me. And I wrote what I wanted him to say, and I wrote BBQ Central Show, and he said BBQ Central, just like it was written. So the only regret I have is I didn't write out BARBECUE, because I would have rather had him say Barbecue Central, but he said BBQ Central, and I took it, and I was gracious that he even took 30 seconds to do it. But just goes to show people are seeing it and reading it in completely different ways.
Yeah, for sure.
The burger index is something that I found incredibly fascinating. I didn't even know you had done it before, so shame on me. But luckily, you went and revisited it and found terrible findings.
Well, I'm not sure if it's really terrible. I think it's probably good if you like burgers.
Well, sounds like it's fucking expensive.
Oh, well, yeah, but the recent news is good. The trend, the long-term trends are bad. Yeah, so you probably didn't see it because I think I did it all basically for some Charleston publications over the years.
Yeah.
And I think the first time I did it was probably 2021. And what I did was I went and compiled what I call the burger index, sort of basing it sort of the way they do the consumer price index. I went out and I found like 10 burgers in Charleston. And I tried to do a little high end, low end, no fast food burgers, but all independent restaurants, but like, burger joints, and then some places that are steakhouses and stuff like that. And initially put it together, I think I went back to 2015, so I could track how the price of a burger and fries had increased over time. And so what I did was try to take a standard burger at each of these restaurants, like your basic burger with cheese. So a cheeseburger. And then because so many of them would come automatically with fries, I'd say a cheeseburger and fries. And then if the restaurant made you buy fries on the side, I'd add in the cost of that. So I could get the amount. Tracked it year over year. And then sort of looked at the trends back in 2021. And I've been tracking it every year since then. Usually I do it in October. I capture the price in October for these 10 restaurants for the same burger and see how it's trended over time to see the way it's gone up. And you're right. Over time, that's why I sort of have this longitudinal study now of burger prices in Charleston. And what I do is take the actual dollar, your raw dollar price that's on the menu and track how that's gone up. And of course, it goes up every year, and the average does at least. Some places will keep the burger at the same price for a year or two. But most places it goes up at least a little bit. So the average always goes up in raw dollar terms. But what's interesting is we used to compare it against like real dollars. So you adjust it for inflation and see how it goes up. And really I've got to look, I have my little spreadsheet over here for the first, I think all the way up till 2020, 2022, maybe 2021, the price of burger and fries was increasing at a higher rate than inflation, like twice the rate of inflation. So yeah, it's going to go up, but it's going up a lot faster than inflation. And then you get some weirdness right after COVID, where prices go sort of screwy. But what's happened in the last couple of years, and this is where the good news I think is that in raw terms the burger prices have inched up, but inflation after COVID went up, and it's actually now rising lower than inflation. In fact, the last 2 years, according to my stats, the real dollar price of a burger and fries has actually gone down in Charleston, at least down a little bit. So I think my average price across all these restaurants, and some of these are fancy steakhouses, some are barbecue joint. And I think right now it's sitting at $17.46 is the price. When I was writing about this back in 2021, I sort of extrapolated. I said by 2025 we're going to have the average price be above $20, which I sort of speculated was a mental barrier. It's sort of like when Coca-Cola would go above 50 cents, then we'd go above $1. It'd hold there for a while. But no, it hasn't actually done that. In fact, if you adjust it for inflation, the price has actually ticked down just a little bit. I think the $17.46 in 2023 dollars, I think would be $16.08, whereas the average in 2023 was $16.64. So you're actually in real dollar terms paying a little bit less. Now the bad news there could be because everything else around it is going up a lot more. So sure. Inflation is rising. So once you adjust it, and hopefully your salary is going up more, but yeah, the burgers are hanging below $20 for burger and fries right now, at least for a while. And hopefully the good news is it looks like it's going to stay under that barrier, at least for, even if it rises a lot in the next couple of years, we have some headroom before.
I feel like burger and fries shouldn't be more than $12.
Yeah. Well,
like
this is actually,
or getting on $20.
Yeah.
I understand where that hurdle is, but I think we've far gone past the hurdle, and people are people want the burger and they're disgruntled past $12.
Yeah. Well, people are disgruntled about most things. When I first wrote about this in 2022, I actually interviewed Brooks Wrights, who is the owner of Little Jack's Tavern, which is one of the burgers on my index. I have a great burger there. It's an expensive burger. What is it right now? Little Jack's is $17 for a burger and fries at Little Jack's Tavern. But it's a really, really good burger. But he talked a little bit about the economics, and he talked a little bit about, they do price food. If you're doing your restaurant metric, you take your food cost and you put a multiple on top of it, like 300%. And that's sort of your standard metric. But if you are running a restaurant where you've got steaks and then you got high ticket items, lobster and stuff like that, but then people start ordering more and more burgers, well, your rent doesn't change, the gas doesn't change, your labor doesn't change. So if people are going toward the lower price thing, you actually got to bring it up a little bit. So I sort of speculated at some point, one of the reasons why burgers were rising faster than inflation was we had that period from 2015 to 2020 where burgers were booming. It's like everybody was just going burger crazy and get burger. And I think that was a larger and larger percentage of the ticket, the average restaurant ticket. So they had to raise the price on them just so they could pay the rent and pay the gas. And at the same time, labor was going up and all that. So all that doesn't, your food cost doesn't affect it. So yeah, we think of burgers as being like the economy food, right? Compared to the steak or the lobster. But you also have to bake into it. If you're went from selling 20% of your tickets burgers to 50%, now your total receipts are going down. That was the story. I think that may also have some factor now that I think burger mania, at least here in Charleston, has peaked a little bit. I think people are starting to switch up and do other things. So that may be why burgers aren't rocketing through the ceiling like they used to be.
Maybe we should also keep a finger on the pulse of something above the traditional fast food chain, a McDonald's, Burger King. I mean, those have certainly gone up as well, kind of shockingly, but a Five Guys, the In-N-Out, the Whataburger. There's another one that I can't think of right off the top of my head. Those 5 or 6 brands and see where those track. Because I still feel if I'm going to Five Guys and I get like the double cheeseburger and the fries, I'm probably in plus 20 on that. And again, I don't think I feel very good about that.
No, well, I mean, yeah, but on the flip side, I don't think those guys are. The competition is fierce in the restaurant market, and they're not. Nobody would say that restaurants are a high margin business, so they are really having to balance their costs and everything. I think that is less I don't think it's Five Guys just profiteering off of the burgers so much as everything else around them is going up and up, up and up and up, and it just gets reflected ultimately in the burger price. I'm looking. I will note that the high end places, the steakhouses, really, I have 2 steakhouses on here and a couple of nice restaurants, and their burgers, they tend to have stabilized or not gone up as much as the places like Sesame, which is a burger shop, Little Jack's I talked about. Melvin's Barbecue is on there here in Charleston, which is a barbecue joint, but they have a really great cheeseburger. Yep. Those are the ones that have gone up a lot. Those were all under, when I first started doing the index, or I started calculating for 2015, $10 was sort of that range. Like, and lots of restaurants were under $10. That's for a burger and fries. So you walk out of that. Those are the ones now that if you look at them here in 2025, they're sitting at $15, $16, $17. So they have gone up quite a bit. Whereas the steakhouses, one of them was $22 in 2022, is actually $21 now. Huh. They reduced the size of their burger from 10 ounces to 8 ounces, and the price is now $21.
Always doing a bang-up job is our pal Robert Moss, and you can sign up to his Q sheet over at robertfmoss.com, and you can find him here once a month on the second Tuesday at 35 past the first hour. Yep. Robert, always appreciate the time, and we'll see you again in March.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Greg.
You got it. Robert Moss right there. Always a pro, which we certainly appreciate. And we're a little over, but that's all right. Plenty of time to get through that second hour update and then make time for Mark Anderson. Forgot to update that. Ooh. All right, anyway, we'll come back and wrap this first hour right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Robert Moss for joining us last segment. robertfmoss.com, his website. Sign up for the Q sheet. It's coming out fast and furious. I love it. All right, let's make a abridged outro here as we close the first hour. We thank, again, Robert Moss and Mr. Jonathan for joining us. We are pointing to the second hour, so refresh your libations and come on back. You're listening and watching the BBQ Central Show right here on the BBQ Central Network. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me.
Fine, how you doing?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono. It's all about the charbono, dude.
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 2 feet or wiener.
But listen, Lavernius, shake the face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. It is the Barbecue Central Show, where we talk about the most important barbecue and grilling items of the day. Still to come on this show this evening, Mark Anderson of the Grill Dads will be showing up in about 7 or 8 minutes from now. The Barbecue Central Show is coming to you live and direct from
Palm City, USA, Cleveland.
We say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. You can go to facebook.com/BBQ Central Show. Or you can watch on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show. We have a YouTube poll question of the week. A would you rather, by the way. All guests, including those of you watching on YouTube, would you rather get a foot massage or a shoulder massage? And currently 83% of you are saying you would like that shoulder massage, and I would like that shoulder massage as well. I'd mentioned it in the first hour, and shame on me, I have not properly gotten it to where I need it to be. But I can tell you this. Coming up this Friday on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less, taking you back to October 6th of 2010, you will find a segment from none other than the pitmaster of Laudable Barbecue, Mike Davis. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Mike Davis, like maybe you were not familiar with Scotty Johnson last week, like maybe you were not also familiar last week with Q-Ow or Barbecue Ow, Beth and Mike Wozniak, Mike Davis is, again, I hate to use the term week after week, but John doing a bang-up job. Mike Davis, a legend when it comes to competition barbecue, one of the first to really introduce buying and taking an RV to barbecue competitions and working out of said RV. Also really big in those offset barbecue pits. I believe he partnered with or started a company called Championship Smokers back in the day. Mike also very successful at selling the Laudable barbecue rub and sauce before that really became a thing. Believe it or not, barbecue rubs and barbecue sauce is not nearly as prevalent as they are now. You go up and down any semi-major and major supermarket, you have roughly a whole half aisle dedicated to barbecue and grilling things, sauces and rubs and various accoutrements on top of that. Wasn't really like that 20 years ago when we first got into this beast. And Mike Davis was one of those guys that was working with some type of a co-packer and getting his rub in, and then he was selling it out of the back of his RV at barbecue competitions. By the way, Mike, one of the winningest competition barbecue cooks at one of the most prestigious barbecue events every year, the American Royal out there when he was doing it in Kansas City. I don't know if he still shows up or not or what his deal is. I haven't talked to Mike in a while. But if you are not familiar with Mike and you are looking for a nice introductory segment to him, then you want to make sure that you tune in for the best moments this coming Friday. And as always, if you feel a guest has been lost in the archives or it's somebody you want to hear from again, email John and let him know what you would like to hear. That's John, Jon, at thebbqcentralshow.com. And he will do his best to meet your expectation. Email from Braden Estrella. And he's got a couple quick questions for me. Number one, Greg, have you ever heard of the show called Cigar Pulpit? No. Number two, since Scott Erdman couldn't join you to talk about BBQ World Cup, when will you have him back on the show to talk about it? Braden, hopefully in 2 weeks' time. The last Tuesday of the month, hopefully you will hear at least Scott Erdman here on the show, and we're finalizing that. Number 3, what streaming software do you use for your shows? Because the only one I ever heard of is StreamYard. Braden, I use a software program called V as in Victor, vMix, made specifically for those of us that are running the PC machine versus the Mac machine. If you run a Mac, I believe Ecamm is the streaming software preference for those type of folks, but I am not a Mac person. I am still a PC person, so I use vMix. And question number 4, when is Mr. Jonathan joining you again? He joined me in the first hour, Braden. You might have missed it. And finally, number 5, have you ever heard of Lobel of New York? Lobel. Ooh. Well, Braden, being from New York, and I would like to say I'm highly proud of that. Although, you know, when you talk to people and you say you're from New York, they really only ever think about that small city in that really large state. And of course, I was from Saratoga Springs, which is upstate. So if Lobel is like New York City, then no, I'm not aware of that. If that's just a statewide thing, I'm still not aware of it, Braden, and I apologize for that. But thank you for writing in, and hopefully I've answered all of your questions there. So, without any further ado, we get ready for a Mark Anderson, The Grill Dads segment. Before we do that, let's talk about one of my favorite cigars going right now, the McAuliffe cigar. Step into the world of McAuliffe, where each blend is a chapter in a grand tale of craftsmanship and passion. The portfolio, a symphony of flavors, each note carefully composed to create an unforgettable Nicaraguan smoking experience. We all know about that color series. And I believe in just a few weeks' time, Amanda McAuliffe herself, Senior VP of Marketing and daughter to the founder, is going to be on to talk about McAuliffe White, which is going to be their latest line in the color release, or their latest release in the color line. McAuliffe cigars can be researched further on their website, MICALLEF, McAuliffecigars.com. Also, you can use the locator to find a retailer near you. We're back with Mark Anderson right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the BBQ Central Show.
I don't remember if I already ran this or not. Jason Pettis, 4691, on fire still, as I asked about the Daryl Mast update. I'm going to say allegedly before I get sued. I think this is Jason, I'm just reading. I think he may be in prison. He was poorly running a nursing home with bad conditions. Oh, yeah, that'll get you in prison, all right. You can't do that. Those old people, they are a finicky bunch. My second guest tonight has been seen on such places as the Food Network and all over the internet and social media with his pal Ryan Fay. And tonight we're going to be talking about a number of items, to include the viral rib roast method, or at least viral to me, because I think it was the most magical thing I saw in all of 2025, breaching into 2026. It's our pal Mark Anderson from the Grill Dads. Hey, Mark.
How's it going?
I'm well. We have a YouTube poll question of the week before we get going. A would you rather YouTube poll question of the week. Would you rather get a foot massage or a shoulder massage?
Is that for me?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, shoulder.
Shoulder, right? 83% of the YouTube voting public agreeing with you and me. Shoulder, a lot less freaky than a foot massage. And weird. Gross, of course. All right, so let's not waste any time. Mark, here I am perusing social media. I'm always trying to find the best way or best new way to cook a rib roast. You get it, at least I do, around Christmas time, holiday season. And my family continues to get bigger, which means what? I have to get a bigger rib roast, which means what? I have to spend more of my goddamn money on a rib roast. And what do you want to do when those things happen? You don't want to fuck it up. So I am always on the lookout. And here is Mark and Faye doing something the likes. I would love to say I'm creative at all, but obviously I'm not. You do something, and I'm like, of course. Tell us all about it.
That is a moment where
who thought of it? Take ownership of it right now. You did it, didn't you, Mark?
I will. Faye would give me credit for it.
That's all right. Thank God.
He would give me credit for it. So, you spend a lot of money on a prime rib.
Yeah.
And the best part of the meat is the ribeye cap, which is on the outside, on the opposite side of the bones. So, and it cooks faster because it's so marbled, and fat is such a great conduit of heat. So it's the first thing that gets heated because it's on the outside, and it cooks faster. So that's why you get the gray cap of death and the outside of there. Now, there's other ways to do this, right? I mean, you can do sous vide, but for us around the holidays, cooking a expensive, awesome piece of meat inside of a plastic bag in a puddle, and the sous vide doesn't feel celebratory. It works.
You just made me feel a lot less manly about myself too, by the way. So congrats on that.
It's, so we want the smoke flavor, and we actually use sous vide a bunch, especially if we're doing big events. It's like a logistical savior.
Of course.
But yeah, we just want it. And I was like, you know what? The butchers are already cutting the bones off. What if I use the bones instead of protecting the eye and that weird little chain muscle across the bottom? Why don't we flip it over and use it as a cradle to cover the cap? It's really, of all the things that we've done, that's probably the most videos that we've ever been DM'd of people doing it. And like big, Wiley Dufresne, who's, one of the biggest, best known chefs in the world, did the method for his family this year. So, it's awesome to finally be, the blind squirrel. We finally found a nut and did something that people were super excited. Yeah. I mean, it's just solving a problem, I was just so sick of overcooked cap.
Yeah.
To the point where, in previous years I was removing it and cooking it separately, just so you can guarantee that it was going to be great. But the bones bring a lot of flavor, but now they're a heat shield for the cap and a flavor generator.
Yeah. One of the things I was thinking about was when you talk about, a month in advance of your holiday Christmas prime rib is the turkey. And there was that time frame, I forget how many years ago, where it really spun up and got popular, was icing down the breasts. I mean, favorite activity of mine in different scenarios, of course. But for turkey, ice down the breasts because then they get cooler and it takes them longer, and the dark meat and everything kind of finishes at the same time. When I spatchcock turkey, I've never had any issues with things finishing ahead of other things. That all seems to kind of time up well. But do you ever think about icing down, or had you ever iced down the cap portion of the rib roast to see if that worked?
No, but we have iced down the filet side of a porterhouse.
Yes, it worked.
Yeah, it worked great. Yeah. I mean, because with turkey, the problem is the skin is going to get waterlogged from the ice, because it'll absorb that moisture. That's not going to happen on a steak, really. And there's no real good way to put ice on the cap when you're cooking the whole thing, unless you do like a wet blanket over it or something. But that just seems starting to get a little bit too fussy. Especially since if you buy the bone in, it comes with the shield. You just gotta butcher it and move it around. But the fillet, not overcooking the fillet on a porterhouse is an art form. Which we actually cook. We put them on the T-bone like books. So they're straight up and down. So the bone helps deflect any direct heat. Works great.
Mark, do we agree that perhaps one of the most overrated steaks ever on the face of the earth is filet?
I'm going to argue both sides here.
Why? Pick a side.
The first answer is yes.
Yeah.
But I do like it. I do like it when it's with a porterhouse. The bone brings a lot of flavor, and it's nice to have a little bit of both sides. But
now, when you say the bone brings a lot of flavor, you mean that it protects it from overcooking? Because we all know from meathead that the bone is actually giving you no flavor because it is it's that whatever the hell it is, calcium.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I agree with that, but but you are getting that super even cook, you know, and I you know, I don't know. I think it's delicious in that form, but I haven't ordered a filet mignon as a steak.
Yeah.
In my life.
Ever?
No.
Like even as a youth when you were tricked that, oh, this is the most decadent steak you could ever get and you don't know any better until you realize everything is better?
Nope. And
wow.
I'm proud to say that. And also, I mean, steakhouses are overrated for the most part. I mean, honestly.
Yes.
So for us, we had some good ones in New York last week, actually. But for us, you know, the problem that we have with steakhouses is it's always strip, filet, ribeye, the most boring cuts of meat on the cow, you know. And if we go to you know, there's French places do steak much better than American style steakhouses in general. I mean, there's exceptions to the rule everywhere, but there's Daniel Boulud has a place called La Gratin in New York City, and I think when you get steak frites, you can choose between skirt or hanger.
Ooh,
I mean,
we
now
choose hanger.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Do you like skirt steak or hanger steak?
Yes.
Aha. But if you had to choose one.
With steak frites, I would go with hanger.
Yeah. All right. I'm with you on
Feels
that.
classic.
All right. Let me tie it back to the, no pun intended, to the rib roast here. First time you invert it, cook it, it's a banger right off the bat, or was there any adjustments that you needed to do?
No, it worked right out of the gate. I did end up taking it out a little earlier the second time, just because, you know, carryover heat is a function of the temperature you cook it at and the mass. And with the bone, I mean, there's a lot of mass, so the carryover cooking, it went further than I thought. So you can either take it out earlier or cut the bones off right when it comes out, and that sort of thermal launch that keeps cooking the meat will stop. But so we published it 2 years in a row, slightly different versions. But the first time that we did it, we cooked the New York Times prime rib highest rated recipe as like 100% to a T to what the recipe said. And then we did our version, put it up against it. And that did hugely well. And then, so last year we didn't, or this past holiday, we didn't do it as a comparison. But we did, you know, we just put it out in a smoker just to get some extra flavor. So
I believe, so as we tie up, I did it again, as we start to end the conversation on rib roast, I think a large and far time-reaching misnomer is at some point during the cook, you got to pound this bad boy with high heat. I think that's a terrible idea, period. I've accidentally not done that and either left it in the oven if the girls want a, you know, oven roasted prime rib, or if we're getting it out into the smoker. I believe it is just way better in the smoker for a multitude of flavor reasons and bark formation reasons, this and that. But even in the oven, without blasting it, doing it at 225, you get a nice crustation of the outside, but nothing overbearing. And then the cap doesn't get blasted because, as you were talking about, that's really absorbing all that energy first and is transferring onto the inside. So I started a movement, you know, a number of years ago saying, please, if you're going to do anything, stop with the 550 degree, you know, heat up of this oven to finish it off or hit it first, because you might be doing yourself a disservice. And many people have jumped on the bandwagon of the Barbecue Central show. Can I get Mark Anderson on this bandwagon?
Yeah, and I'm gonna one up you
Yes.
on not a one up, but a yes and. So we find that if you have a really good cut of meat, and we salt the meat heavily with the roast and the ribs still separated, and if you do that like 36 hours in the fridge uncovered, you get that dry pellicle on the outside, and then 250, 225 degrees is enough to get a little bit of a Maillard reaction on the outside of the roast because there's no moisture out there. So there's a lot of times where we pull it off and we're just like, this doesn't need a sear.
Yeah.
But if you do want that sear, you either need to rest it a ton before you do it. So the internal temperature needs to stop rising and start dropping before you actually sear it. You can actually rest up to an hour and a half. They can just kind of hang out in a warm spot. For most steaks where you want a really good sear, the best time to do it is right when it comes out of the fridge.
Yeah.
Aggressive sear, rest it on a rack and let it hang out for a half an hour and then cook it at 225. But yeah, if you have a good cut of meat and the outside is nice and dry and sticky, you're going to get a good steak without the 550.
I've really enjoyed watching the latest run of Grill Dead videos, especially these best bites of 2025. You see the roast beef sandwich there in New York and that roast pork sandwich in Philly, which looked incredible. And, or was that the chicken cutlet sandwich in Philly? I mean, everything was like better than the next thing. So, and maybe this ties into a different topic that we're going to talk about here in a second. Do you and Faye go, hey, this year in 2025, we want to do we're going to go to a bunch of places. We're going to video everything because in the end, we want to be able to create a best of this city or a best of this type of dish? Or does that kind of thing happen organically?
This year happened organically. This in 2025 and 2026, we're planning for it. And so, basically when we stopped doing the Food Network show, our social media strategy was 100% recipe creation. So we were doing 3 full recipes a week. And we did that for a couple of years. And that is a burn like I never want to experience again for the rest of my life. Every single day, it's like you're either filming or planning to film or cleaning up from the last film. And you're never out of production mode. And then so Faye and I started doing things where we'd get together, we'd hire some people to help us, and we'd film 7 in a day, so that we could have a month off from doing that specific task. That was even worse. So a couple of years ago, we're traveling 150 days a year for the Grill Dads. When we're in these cool places, why don't we, find these awesome restaurants? And it's been a blessing because now we're doing like 45 recipes a year instead of, 150. And we're going out to eat in these places anyway. So it's not that big of a deal. And it's the type of content we did when we were in the Food Network. So it all kind of worked out. And then, honestly, we're always looking for opportunities to use the content that we already have. It's just a, efficient use. So for example, like this year we can do New York, Philly, Miami, LA, Chicago, where we're like, where to eat if you spend a day in New York, cause we filmed at 25 places. So we can pick 3 of our best and package them together and put it out. So, and those types of lists, do better on YouTube and TikTok than some of our other things do. So I don't know, but it really came out of like, how do we be smart about this library of content that we've built? But it did exceptionally well, and people get really angry with those lists, really angry.
You're taking a stand, inviting people. Well, you're not inviting them, but I mean, the comments are open. Otherwise you would close the comments to hear what other people are going to be saying to what you're putting out there. That's the only list that counts. I mean, you can run that charlatan ruse of we're going to do a list where you say, okay, it's going to be this steakhouse, and this steakhouse. Now vote, which immediately takes all the ball kicking away from your area and leaves it up to now a a vote of popularity. I mean, I have no respect for that. I mean, at least you guys are. I respect all the lists that are saying, "Here's the best and here's why." Debate. That's what I like.
Yeah, we're not afraid to put a stake in the ground.
Right.
You know, I've always said, like, you know, like Faye and I were interviewing somebody to work for the Grill Dads a couple years ago, and we were asking people questions like, "Hey, like, what's your death row meal?" You know, and I didn't care if it was a high end thing or if it was Taco Bell, as long as you were willing to defend it to the end. You know, so we don't mind putting a stake in the ground. People always miss when we do those lists where we're saying, like, this is in 2025, here's the top 5 cheesesteaks that we had. You know, we're not saying these are the best 5 cheesesteaks in the world.
Yeah.
Although from what we've had, that list is probably pretty close. But for us anyway. But honestly, when we see people get angry in the comments, we get excited because we know that we've created a video that's going to do well. And if nobody is upset, you haven't tried hard enough.
Yeah. Who we're going to be pissing off next?
Oh God, everybody. Hopefully,
yeah, everybody.
No, I mean you know, it's like you do the hot dog list. It's like, here's the best 5 hot dogs we had this year. I mean, it's a freaking hot dog, which very important to me. But the number of people that are like, I can't believe that, you know, this one that's an hour and a half outside of Des Moines didn't make your list.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, we weren't there. But.
So as I was corresponding with you to come on the show to talk about the rib roast method initially, we were trying to line up a little sound check, and you're like, hey, a lot of things going on here, blah, blah, blah. Well, we worked it out, which I certainly appreciate. But the news is maybe there's something new for the Grill Dads that is actually kind of being birthed as we speak. So I don't know what you're allowed to mention or what you're not allowed to mention, but can you mention anything about the new thing?
Yes, I mean, we have a formal offer. We haven't signed the deal yet, but it's just really about figuring out, you know, I's and T's. But we're gonna it's gonna be we're making a new show, a full length 22-minute show that's gonna be available on many streamer platforms, maybe social media as well. We haven't quite dove into like how that network handles that, but we're doing something. It's gonna be like outdoor grilling meets late night. A little bit of booze consumption. Maybe this is a good audience to talk to about our show. I think we might have some crossover.
Yep.
But it's going to focus on. It's going to have kind of a fun late night vibe, but it's going to focus on specifically on food that people enjoy between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. That fourth meal, and we're going to wrap our arms around it and put it on a pedestal. And you know, 24-hour diners. You know, the local delivery places that are open till 4 a.m. All those sorts of places is going to be the food that we focus on.
So will it be a show that has travel in it, or is it going to be a studio based show that talks about that?
Studio, stand and stir. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to give history on the specific item. And then we're also, we're going to actually show people how to make it at home. That, you know, it's funny, when we did our show on the Food Network, our show was a travel log, and all these shows are 3 acts. And we wanted the third act of our show to be showing people how to make stuff from the first 2 acts at home. Like, you know, we just showed you a Cubano place in Miami, which is 4,000 miles from your house. You can't have that right now, but here's how you would make it at home, specifically outside. So we've been trying to get that made for years. And we finally get to do it. You know, we can, you know, if we're doing a cheesesteak episode, we have tons of footage from Angelo's. We've been there a bunch. So some of that might find its way in, maybe not, but it'll be heavily influenced by our travel, but we won't be traveling in the show.
So I remember when you and Faye got on Food Network the first time. I think you actually were on the show and we talked about that whole thing and how Guy Fieri was a big catalyst in getting you guys off the ground there. In 2026, putting a TV show together, like, how much different does it look now, especially with all the streaming services? And like, you don't really need to necessarily get on a network per se to get your name out there or to have an audience. And how much has remained the same?
I mean, it's what's really funny is show you. The same camera we have at home is what they're making. Oh, did I lose you?
Nope.
Oh, no. This camera that we have at home for our social media stuff is the cameras they're using to make network TV shows now.
Yeah.
You know, so the production gap has narrowed greatly, you know, and the crew on this show will be 6 people as opposed to like 18 or 20 people when we're doing the Food Network stuff. Everything's gotten smarter and more efficient because there's 1,000% more shows being made now than there were 8 years ago. And so everybody has gotten smarter and more efficient. So as far as making it, we're actually excited because the worst thing in the world is, you know, because Faye and I, since we're 2 people, it's about capturing a vibe and our interaction and what we're doing. Like, you know, we see people when we're out and like, oh, we love the Grill Dads. They don't say we love your cheesesteak. They say, you remind me of me and my brother. So it's really like that buddy interaction that we need to capture. And if the sun moves a little bit, then you got to shut down the production for an hour and 15 minutes while 3 different gaffers figure out how to move a screen. And then you start back up. You know, that heavy production was a real buzzkill.
Yeah.
So you don't really have to do that anymore. As far as shopping for shows, the big difference now is that, you know, on the Food Network hires a production company who owns a show, who physically produces it, creatively produces it, and hires the talent. And then they own it and the network licenses it from them. Now, this network is buying a finished product from us. So we are the production company and we're in it. So, you know, we go out, we hire, you know, director / showrunner, camera people, editor, and put it all together. And then instead of the network sending us something to look at and give us notes, now we're sending it to them.
In layman's terms, you're gambling on your sales up front in hopes that you're producing something that somebody's going to want to buy.
No, they're buying it in advance.
So you pitch them the concept and they're like, okay, bring us back 18 episodes at blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And we're probably just going to do 6 in the first season because we want to get out by grilling season. Hopefully there's more. But I mean, the big difference is we are in the show, we own the show, and we're making the show. When we were on the Food Network, we were on the show. Yeah. We didn't make it, and we helped make our show like creatively, but we didn't, you know, we weren't in charge of making it and we didn't own it. So now, you know, we have a much better deal.
You make good money doing this?
I mean, it depends. So we get to sell corporate integration into the shows as well. So, I mean, there are opportunities, and that's where Faye and I kind of get smart and scrappy to do stuff. But I mean, for us, it's not a big money maker, but it's an opportunity to call the Today Show and say, hey, you know, we have a new show coming out. So a lot of those places, they need a reason, you know, like a relevant reason for you to come in and talk. So whenever we have something like that going on, we do these epic press tours. So it's good for our brand in general. And obviously, you know, the viewership on the actual show is great for us in business building ways and all sorts of other things. It's I mean, it's not a huge moneymaker by any means, but in success, you can figure that out.
What's the big revenue driver for the Grill Dads? Is it the QVC stuff? Is it a partnership with Ninja or whoever? Like, where does the main revenue derived from?
It's a mix. You know, it's a lot of brand partners. We do, you know, we've had a really good year for viewership with RevShare on Facebook, which is kind of cool to see that having a good year. But we do live events. So we work with Ryan Reynolds' company and host. We do like aviation gin events for the NFL. We host and produce the tailgates for Wrexham, for our portion of the tailgate for Wrexham whenever they come and do soccer matches in the States. We do SEC Nation appearances for one of our sponsors, Johnsonville. So it's events, it's brand deals, our cookbook, thankfully, knock on wood, has been pretty successful. So we're starting the process of doing a second one of those. So, it's the brands and the events really, really keep it going.
Are you guys building a new studio, kitchen, and culinary destination in Central Ohio?
I can tell that you just read Ryan Fay's headline for what's happening at his house. So Fay is from Columbus, and he just moved back there from LA.
Oh.
And we just finished building. What was that?
On purpose?
Yeah. Dude, LA's rough right now. So he's back in just outside of Columbus where he's from.
Wow.
And a couple months ago, we just built in partnership with RTA and Coyote a badass studio.
Wow.
So smoker, flat top, gas grill, pizza oven, and then also like a big sort of empty space that we can use for whatever. It's totally powered for production lights and all the fun stuff. And the irony is that we built that in October and we can't use it to film our new show. It's just the dumb luck that is us.
And you're in like Colorado or somewhere, right?
No, I'm in Boise.
Oh, Boise, right.
Did you say you're from Saratoga Springs?
Originally, yeah.
I'm from Clifton Park. Your neighbor.
Really? Look at
Yeah.
you. Spend any time in the August place to be?
I worked at the Ben & Jerry's in Saratoga Springs for 3 summers.
Wow, look at you. What years were those? You remember?
1947.
Yes, back when it was founded. Very good. So, and then was Faye always the Ohio guy? Were you the Ohio guy at some point too, or always Faye?
Faye's born and raised there.
He went to OU for a stint.
I
maybe?
was. I moved from upstate New York to go to Ohio State for college, and then stayed there for a long time.
Yeah. All right.
So that's where we met.
Well, I'm interested in, because I get down to Columbus once a month to have one-on-ones with my sales manager down there in the South region. So I would love to overnight. I'm not self-inviting, but if you are, if anybody's around to tour me around the Grill Dad studio, and that would be such a lifetime achievement for me. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, Faye would love that.
Oh yeah,
he would absolutely love that.
All
and
right,
we're gonna
great.
do. We can't film there because the show that we're doing is like a late night show. It's dark, moody, nighttime sort of stuff. And Columbus, when we have to film in a couple of weeks, it's gonna be like 20 degrees at night.
Don't
and then
I
the
know
show
it.
gets put out in the summer, and we look like we just went snowmobiling. It doesn't really.
Yes, I didn't even think
Doesn't
about
really
that.
work.
Yeah, that is not TV magic.
No.
What else is coming up for the Grill Dads we should be on the lookout for?
Oh my gosh. It seems like so much. We are, did we have the cocktails out when we talked to you last?
I don't think so. Oh, like you have your own cocktails. Look at you.
Grilling Time cocktails.
Yes.
Made by these two assholes here.
Oh, the worst.
Yeah. Absolute jerk offs.
Yes.
So we created these. They're all real spirits, all natural, and have a culinary nod to grilling. So Tequila Smoke has smoked blood orange, simple syrup, charred rosemary, tequila blanco, soda water. And so they all kind of have one of those nods, and we're in every Bevmo in California. We're just got into the Albertsons World in Idaho, and we're about to finally kick off Texas. So it's
I feel like Columbus has been left off the map there.
Columbus Ohio's a control state, which is very challenging.
Oh, right.
So you have to find a distributor, and then you have to find a distributor to sponsor you to get in with the state of Ohio. And it's control states are hard to start small, because you want to be able to support whatever markets you open. And so if you open up a control state and we don't do Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus, Dayton, Bowling Green, like whatever, Yampton, all those places, then they're not going to let us in there. So Faye is working on it. We do want to open Columbus as a test market by the summer, but it's the control. The only reason why we haven't, because we love Columbus, is because it's a control state.
Yeah, Roaming Shores is pissed that you left them off the list. By the way, they just wrote in on that. Look, this is Mark Anderson, and Mark, we appreciate the extended time here this evening, catching up. I hate that it was about 4 to 5 years since we've had you on the last time, but that's my fault,
It's
not
been
yours.
that long.
Yes, last time. Oh, well, I mean, last time you were on, believe it or not, I'm not bringing this up to be a dick, but we were announcing the launch of the Grill Dads podcast. What happened to that?
Or do you have a toilet flush sound effect you can do? You know, thank you. That's perfect. You know, the podcast was tough because we travel so much, and it was managing it, promoting it, editing it, because we did do an edited podcast, which was probably the biggest mistake that we ever did. The workload was really intense. And the other thing that was crazy for us, like at the time, the only way that we had to really promote it was through social, and the algorithm was really scrubbing podcast content. So if we posted on our Instagram stories and would normally get like 30,000 views on a story post, you know, back then, we'd post a picture of us with Eva Longoria and say, hey, our Eva Longoria podcast episode is up live. Here's a link to it for Apple or for, you know, Apple, whatever.
Yeah.
And we'd get 200 instead of 30,000 views on it. So we just kind of, you know, we burned out on it. We both realized that we love to be on them, but having one and producing it wasn't our jam.
You had mentioned Eva Longoria. I listened to it. It was like my favorite Grill Dads episode. She seemed like a doll.
She's amazing. She wrote the foreword for our cookbook. So she's everything you'd hope someone would be.
Yeah.
She's, you know, selfless. She's smart. She's works hard. She'll give you the shirt off her back. It wouldn't fit me, but she'd give it to me if I needed it.
Mark, again, appreciate the extended time tonight. Go to grilldads.com and see where Mark and Faye are going to be, and make sure you're up to speed on whatever they're doing. And as I said before, it will not be another 4 or 5 years until the next time. And again, much appreciated.
Yeah, love it. Thank you. Good to see you.
Right. Thanks, Mark. A banger way to close it out here this evening with Mark Anderson from the Grill Dads, socially at the Grill Dads as well. All right, let's catch our breath here after an extended Mark Anderson segment, and we will clean it up and go home. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Craig Rimpey.
And we are back, and we thank Mark Anderson from the Grill Dads. Again, the website, thegrilldads.com. Socially at the Grill Dads. Very interesting. New TV show coming out. He's another person that has built a new kitchen studio / culinary destination, or they. Well, it seems like Faye's the one that might be around it most of the time because Mark is in Idaho, Boise. And Faye is now back in the greater Columbus area, Pickerington, Canal, Winchester, something along these lines. So excited to see what a real studio kitchen looks like in person. Malcolm has one, and Mike Lang has one. Maddie and Kiki has one. I believe. Why am I drawing a blank on that guy's name? His name is the guy that won Memphis in May last year. Well, I just had it 3 different times. His name is, I see him, there he is. It is, why does Lance come up in my head? It's not even Lance. Anybody listening, please help me. Who won it? His name is, oh, Christ. Heath Riles, that's right. Damn. Sorry, Heath. I believe Heath Riles has an outdoor kitchen. A lot of people got these outdoor kitchens all of a sudden that are into this content creation. But look, if you listen, or if you live in one of these areas that I live in, 6-7 months out of the year, not too great to be making content outside at least. So why not be in a controlled environment? I think that's a great idea. Also sounded like he was in the midst of potentially making a new book. Doesn't sound like you get a lot of money for selling TV shows. I don't know how interested I am in doing that. And as I had mentioned there in the first hour, after celebrating 20 years of doing this show, the Grill Dads podcast had flamed in spectacular fashion pretty quick after it started. I don't know if it made it 10 episodes, 12 episodes, or whatever, but the coup de grace was the Eva Longoria episode. I liked it very much. By the way, they did do a really good on location with Pat LaFrida, and I thought that one was really good as well. The Butcher to America, America's Butcher, we should say. But look, it's not easy, and all the things that Mark said about podcasts being a pain in the ass, having to record it, having to edit it. A lot of people don't want to put in the work. A lot of people don't realize that the real work for a recorded show is after the show. I do this show live not because I'm not willing to put in the work to edit. If this show sucks, if there are reasons that I need to edit it, and believe me, as the year has turned, there have been a number of instances where I've had to go in and edit out portions of the show because they are trash. But the majority of the show is fine. I have learned to talk. I know how to transition certain things. I know how to roll with punches, where otherwise I would just go in, let the chips fall where they may, and then meticulously go through and edit together a spectacular show. I don't do that now because I don't necessarily have to all the time. Thank goodness. But Mark just validating the point. Certainly everybody has a podcast, and certainly the majority of those people are dead by episode 5 and are mostly dead by episode 10 and are really dead by episode 20, 25. Most barely make it 5. It's not that easy. If you think it is, just go ahead and try it and then talk to me in 20 years when you get to where I am. All right, let's go ahead and get all the way out of here because all the way back in the first hour, who was it? Well, we had our pal, Mr. J, Barbecue Central Show's official cigar expert. Talked about what's smoking good at Two Guys. He mentioned one of my favorite up-and-coming brands, which is not really up-and-coming. It's been around for a long time, but they got great cigars, HVC. You get them from the Cigar Man. Inside joke. By the way, I wonder if Mr. J is going to mention that he was on the show during his show on Saturday. He never mentions that he's on the show. Give me a break. And then, after Mr. J, we had who? Robert Moss, yes. Educator, burger index creator. I think because I have a Five Guys and a Schwenny's. There's a couple of the burger places by me, not sit-down burger places. No, Jeff, I'm not asking if he mentioned my show. I'm demanding to be mentioned every time he's on the show. That's all. It's not like I want too much. I want to do my own hamburger index and see how that works out. That's interesting. See how burger prices track through the year at 4 or 5 different places. Go every quarter. Sha la 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 la. And then in the second hour, Mark Anderson from the Grill Dads, grilldads.com. So how do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. And until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe, saying, Shalom! Shalom!
Hi, this is Gene Acasella from Port St. John, Florida, and you're listening to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show.